everybody, and welcome to the Wench Bench, where friends sit and talk about fabulous fictional females and how their stories have influenced us throughout our lives.
My name is Fonda.
And my name is Alison.
And today we have a guest with us. Our dear, wonderful, fabulous person. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi! Sorry, I've been holding my breath over here, trying not to make a sound. My name is Emily T-Bear, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. Today Emily is going to be talking about a character and a book series that I am not at all familiar with, so I'm quite excited.
Same. Yeah.
I'm hoping that I can do stuff. Sorry. I'm very excited to share this book with you and this particular character that really kind of has stood with me for a lot longer than I expected her to kind of like be with me, if that makes sense, and if that's not weird to say.
I don't think it's weird. So the character's name is...
the character's name is Agnieszka.
Agnieszka.
I do apologize as well for the pronunciation because I'm imagining that a lot of this is meant to be based on... Okay, so, oh, goodness gracious, I'm already screwing up. Her name is Agnieszka. The book, actually, is called Uprooted. It's a standalone by Naomi Novik. And the whole story, I guess, world is sort of based a lot around, like, Polish culture. So you do have, like, a lot of Polish names, a lot of Polish references, things like that. So it's very cool. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I do apologize for pronunciations going forward.
That's fine. I literally just recorded an episode on Squid Game, so everybody got to listen to me try and pronounce Korean names. It was great.
I love it.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about the book, the world it
totally.
is.
Well, this is a fantasy standalone book, and it is based sort of loosely on the scenario of the princess and the dragon trope. Do you guys know a lot about this trope?
I feel like the name is like on point enough that even if I haven't like Googled the trope and the exact definition, I feel like I've seen enough things about a dragon and a princess in many forms, especially kids' cartoons.
Yeah,
the best part about a trope is that they're usually pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, like I think everybody from a small age already knows what we're talking about when we say the princess and the dragon. And, you know, just for anybody listening that might not know, here's a bit of a refresher.
Yeah.
It's basically just a dragon kidnaps a princess or some other monster kidnaps a princess and is going to eat them or entrap them for many, many years. And then along comes a hero. It could be a prince. It could be a farm boy. It could be just literally any man comes in and saves her, either by slaying the creature or by outwitting it, banishing it, whatever. And everybody lives happily ever after. So we see this so much throughout culture, throughout history, mythology, folklore. A very well-known one is we have Perseus saving the Princess Andromeda from the sea monster. There's also another story where it's like St. George and the Dragon, it's called, where it's, classic. This woman is about to be sacrificed to this dragon due to some paganistic beliefs.
Yeah, been there.
Classic. And the St. George kind of comes along and he slays the beast, and everybody is so happy that they convert to Christianity.
Man.
And everyone lives happily ever after.
I love like blatantly like propaganda.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
oh my God.
Before they had a word for what that was.
Yeah.
It was propaganda.
Yeah,
They loved this.
My favorite trope series for this is Shrek, because Shrek and Fiona. I feel like that movie series did a good job, like, screwing with tropes just enough.
100%, yeah. And it's such a good example of like turning it on its head as well. Because we see like it's almost kind of like in the last 50-ish years that I think we've seen a resurgence and a twisting of this tale, because like Sleeping Beauty before was probably the most recent, quote unquote recent interpretation of this trope. And then ever since then, I think, you know, we see it in literature, in movies, in cartoons, where the princess maybe outsmarts the dragon or escapes herself, or my favorite, where she just prefers the dragon's company.
She just falls in love with the dragon. I was just about to say that. I was like, that is a lot of the romance that I read. It's just the villain wins. Because it turns out that the good guy isn't actually that good a guy.
Totally. Oh, I love it so much. So I love this trope because it has such a... It has so much opportunity to turn it on its head and to like take those cliches. And also like in all of these projections of this story, the woman is always, she's not really talking a lot. She doesn't really do much except be the damsel in distress. She doesn't have any choice or agency. And in a lot of the conclusion of these stories, she's just sort of a gift. She's like, hey, hero, you've slayed the thing. Marry her, and you live happily ever after.
You succeeded, and I am the prize.
Yes. So it was really exciting to kind of pick up this book and just through the synopsis alone get the vibe that we're going to have more of her story and more of her progression and development rather than seeing like this trope of the hero coming in and all that stuff. I would like to add a bit of a trigger warning, I guess, if that's the right word for it. Pardon.
Yeah.
Really, really early on in the first couple chapters, there is an assault scene.
Okay.
Now, nothing comes of it, I would like to really, really add. Like, she kicks his ass in, like, the best way, but he is forcing himself on her in this really uncomfortable way that's just, like, you know, like, when somebody is, like, cooing the other person, being like, don't worry, it's fine, like, I know you're scared, like, super uncomfortable,
it's really
and like
giving you the heebie-jeebies.
And I'm really glad kind of refamiliarizing myself with this book has sort of disillusioned me from how great it was, because when I first read it, I was like, best book I've ever read, and now I'm like, okay, it's still a really good book, and the character I still really enjoy, but now I'm like more down to earth on there's a lot of problems.
Yeah, and that's like a big part of just responsibly consuming media as like a person who like, it's like you can still enjoy it. Like I enjoy a lot of problematic shit. Fully aware that I do. Doesn't mean that I can't expect other things to do better, right?
Yeah, or like, for example, the whole nostalgia of a series, whether it's a show, a book, what have you. I feel like when you get older, no matter if it's like 2 years into having read something and you're like, I'm just going to read it again, you're a totally different person, and like how you view things is allowed to change. And I think it's good that you're like aware of that for this thing that you really enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess to sort of get right into it.
Yes, please.
So Agnieszka lives in the village of Dvarnik, Dvernik, Dvarnik, in the kingdom of Polnia. Every 10 years, the local wizard, who is known as the dragon, really spot on, collects one teenage girl as payment for protecting the local valley from the magical forest, which is just called the Wood, that borders it. So already, we've kind of hit a little bit on, like, the first red flag.
The fact that she's a teenager, welcome to, like, all young adult fiction.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like,
yay,
not to defend it, she is an older teenager.
She is, like, 17, 18.
Like, 18, like, she is, like, not 14 to 16. She is, like, more our idea of a young adult. She's not a teenager exactly. Not to like defend it, but like super problematic already.
Yeah.
So despite being born,
how old is the book series, out of curiosity?
It's not that old. It's probably 2015, I think, is when this book came out.
Just wanted to
Yeah.
hear about that.
Fair enough. And despite being born in this tribute year, Agnieszka does not fear of being taken, as the dragon only chooses the best and brightest girls, and Agnieszka is clumsy and slovenly. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So kind of another problem where he only picks the perfect one, the prettiest one, or the brightest one.
All the more reason to be less ladylike.
So everybody thinks that her best friend, Kaisa, has been basically groomed from a very young age to be taken. Yeah,
Love that.
there's some
Grooming.
yeah. Oh yeah. There's actually some.
I mean, like self-care grooming is fine, but like I hate.
Like taking care of yourself.
Yeah, I hate
Yeah.
other people doing the grooming.
Oh yeah, like it's wild. Her mom. It's great that we do get a little bit later on of. Not quite a resolution, but definitely a confrontation of like, yeah, her mom was basically like, you're going to be taken, you're going to be the best, you're going to be the bravest, you're going to be the brightest. Like,
Why would you want your kid to be taken?
I was gonna say, is there like a bonus or
Yeah,
something?
no, like,
Does
do
he
you
like
get
pay you?
anything?
Is it like
No.
like, oh, you get the big house?
Is it like a religious thing, you
No.
know, where they're just like, oh, hey, like, sadly,
no.
we need the creme de la creme of a thing for this religious deity in order for the rest. No?
No, not at all. Like,
Is
they
the
don't
wizard
get
just really
anything.
hot?
Okay, so I think
Yes, get into it. Let's go.
I think he's hot only because I like tall, skinny boys.
Oh,
yes. Fonda also likes tall, skinny.
Yeah.
My husband, my significant other, is a tall, skinny man. You're listening to this, my dear. I love you.
So, like, he's a tall, skinny boy that always scowls. He's just like an edgelord, basically. So, like,
Emily. No one here knows Emily, but we do, and she loves
yeah.
an edgelord.
Yeah.
I love an edgelord, but unfortunately, this guy isn't exactly the edgelord. He just looks it. He's just an asshole.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have a thing for.
You have a thing for
What do you know?
What do you know? He's just our perfect man.
Well, I don't like.
Oh
an
my
asshole.
God.
It's so good.
Like,
Amount of the ring.
We have discussed at length Alison's toxic taste in men. We can move on.
Yeah, now we're talking about Emily's taste.
Yeah,
We're talking about Emily's toxic
Totally.
taste in men.
So during like the ceremony, he's kind of going through this line of women that are like groomed and presented to him, and he's kind of leering at them in like certain ways. It's really uncomfortable, and he's like especially leering at her best friend because everyone's like, she's totally gonna get taken. But then he comes back to her, and he does this weird thing where he like, here, hold this magic ball.
Does he do that to anyone else?
No, just to her, because
Huh.
it is kind of also stated a little bit early on that he kind of always has a sense of the most special. He doesn't know these women and these girls like one-on-one. He never talks to them before, but he always has a sense of like who is the most special. And again, that could just be the best dancer, the best singer, the smartest, the most well-read, the best cook. Like it ranges from all these different things. So he kind of comes back to her because he senses something about her. And, you know, I was rereading this moment and I'm like, what was it that gave away that she was special? Like, she holds this ball of whatever. It didn't change color that I remember. She just holds it. And then he's like, "Okay, you'll do," and takes her and leaves. Like, she doesn't get to say goodbye to her family.
What?
Yeah.
That's called abduction.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. He, like, grabs her and bamps out of there.
He's like, you're mine now.
Oh my God.
Literally.
He just I mean, I know they're all technically there because they need to be, and everyone seems fine with it, so I guess it's not like kidnapping, but it just feels like kidnapping.
Yeah, it's not a good time. And
Rose-colored kidnapping.
very, very much so. And she's obviously not happy about this because she didn't expect this to happen. She's very thrown from the whole events, and she's suddenly like having to try to figure out what is her role that she's supposed to be doing for the dragon, because never, like, explains to her, like, her role. Like, what is she supposed to do? Is she a servant? Is she supposed to, like, bring food? It's so vague.
Yeah. Hang on a second.
Yeah, totally.
We're gonna put a pause.
Listeners, there's yard work going on outside, so if you hear buzzing, ignore it. I don't know.
Forgive it.
Continue.
Oh,
Yes,
thank
please
you.
keep telling me about how
Agnieszka.
is probably not happy.
Yeah, she's trying to do her best to, like, not appease him isn't the word, but I think it is the word in this case too. Like, she tries to make him dinner and, like, food, because she's like, I don't know, you haven't talked to me or communicated to me what my quote-unquote role is to you. So she's just trying to do her best, which is already so admirable. But he, God, this asshole.
Please don't tell me this is like a Stockholm thing.
No, God, no. Oh my
Okay,
God. She actually,
okay.
by the end of this story, she's so kick-ass in a different way. And I can't wait to get to that point. But right now, he just, like, is kind of, like, verbally and emotionally abusing her.
Love it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Right?
Yeah.
Calling her, like, worthless, like, really demeaning her, being an asshole.
Is he like a really old wizard? Like old in the sense of, like, he looks young and hot, I guess, but he, like, is, like, really old and, like, timely.
100%. He's like 100 years old.
Oh, okay.
Like, minimum 100 years.
Okay, cool.
And he, like, brings her back and says all these mean things to her and starts teaching her magic and starts, like, getting her to recite all of these, like, magic words that she's, like, you know, she's saying back and, like, struggling with, and, like, it's such a draining experience, this magic that she's being put through, I guess. And, like, the whole while, he's not being supportive at all. He's not, like, helping her. He's not, like, doing anything. And also, like, this kind of takes place over, like, a period of weeks after she's taken. Like, he's training her and, like, teaching her these things, and she has no idea what is going on.
Weird. Okay.
Is there a name for, like, shitty mentor trope? Like, the mentors that, like, don't tell you why they're doing anything and they're assholes to you until, like, get somehow good at something, and then they explain why they weren't, like...
I don't know, supportive gaslighting?
Can gaslighting be supportive? That's an oxymoron.
It's just like manipulating somebody to believe something.
That's true. Yeah.
It's called evil mentor.
Yeah, pretty much. And for a long while, she kind of thinks this is just normal, because nobody knows what he does to these women. Sounds shitty.
Yeah. What happens, like, if he's had this many, how many spans of time must go by before he picks
10 years.
I was gonna say, so every decade
he gets a new
Are there any
person.
Does anything happen to the women after 10 years?
I would like to say that early on he has no sexual advances on these women.
Okay.
I mean, like
that's a pretty low fucking bar.
But like
weird, right?
Are
that's
they
our
still,
expectation.
Are they still in the tower? Do they go back
Oh,
home?
that's fair.
Like, are they dead?
After a decade, you're just like, you're too old.
No.
You're just about 30. Get out.
It's kind of weird because throughout their decade that they're just hanging out with him, like, because I guess he's just lonely. He can't talk to people, but, like, I'm just gonna take you and, like, have you keep me company. Like, what a God damn it. So these women, after, like, they're taken and, like, after they've been sent home, they kind of have this sort of longing, I guess, that they experience. Like, suddenly, like, their small community in this valley just feels too small for them. So most of the women don't stay. They go to the larger cities and kind of have more, like, rich and lavish lives, essentially.
Okay.
So she just thinks that this is normal, that he somehow, like, magically affects these women. And the only reason why she suddenly realizes that she's unique and special, still doesn't know that she can do magic, the only reason why she learns that she is unique in some way is through these notes that are left by the previous woman, who is just saying, like, hey, like, he won't do anything to you. He just wants company, you know, to, like, maybe chat with him every now and again, sing for him or do whatever. So she's like, what?
You mean all I was supposed to be doing was singing, and this guy's...
Yeah.
It's making me recite magic?
Yeah, and she's having a shit time of it.
Love it.
Yeah, not a good time. The only other reason that she's like, oh, okay, I'm a magic user, I guess, is because the prince comes to visit. Oh, yeah, the Prince Apollonia.
Wait, people can visit the wizard?
So, this other... Okay.
The dragon, sorry.
The dragon. So, like, there's a lot of other political shit going on in this book that I'm not going to dive in too much because, one, politics is too much for me, and that's not the focus. Yeah. Two, there's just so much shit going on between, like, oh, if we do this one thing, the other people are gonna do this other, like, this stupid game of chess match where even the character, Agnieszka, is like, why can't you just sit and talk? Why do you have to make this complicated? Why can't you just, like, have a communication? Which is another reason why I love her, is just she's so like natural in a way, if that makes sense. Like, she's never thinking conniving ways. She's never like manipulating people. She sees things as kind of like a face value, which leads to like some problems kind of like later on, and like it doesn't always benefit her to see things as sometimes as black and white. Yeah. Anyway, so the prince comes to visit, and then this is where we get that really icky moment of him forcing himself on her and like taking advantage of her and like cooing her, literally like a horse, like how you would like, hey, don't worry, it's okay, like
it's fine, I'm just trying to touch you where you don't want to be touched.
Shh. Oh no.
Yeah, super uncomfortable. And she's like telling him like, hey, no, thank you, no, I don't feel comfortable with this, and he's not listening at all. So to defend herself through some of the magic she's been learning, one of the cantrips that she learned was to basically get herself new clothes. It's just a spell that like she casts, and it's like, oh, now you have this extravagant ball gown.
Love it.
Really super useful.
Super useful. I would love it.
Yeah. And it's really useful in this because as he's like forcing herself on the bed, she's
just putting on more clothes.
She literally like says this spell, and a big like ball gown, petticoats, corset, like she has like inches of fabric.
Yeah. I love this.
I love that so much.
I love this.
The best defense.
More fabric.
So he can't get in. And he's understandably like shocked by this. But he's also like excited because he's like, oh, God. No, not in that. No.
That is a unique fetish.
The more clothes.
Yes. The better. Sorry. He's excited, not in that way, but in like he's excited to know that she's a witch. Because he's about to like say, hey, listen to me, I need your help. But before he can get that far, she grabs the nearest metal thing and hits him over the head. Yes.
Appropriate course of action. Bravo.
And truly knocks him out cold, and he's bleeding.
Good. 100%. Deserved worse.
Totally. And thankfully, well, not thankfully, because actually even when the dragon comes in and is like, what have you done? Like, to this Agnieszka, he's like, what the fuck?
What is happening?
Yeah,
why are you in a ball gown?
Yeah, and like kind of being that asshole and blaming her.
Just
like,
victim blaming.
Totally. Like, what did you do? So he does explain briefly, like, yes, you could do magic. I'm training you and all that jazz because I have to. And he helps her reset him up and fudge his memory so that he's not going to remember being hit.
Perfect.
Perfect. Love it.
A little magical roofie.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Oh my god. So excuse me.
I just deterred him.
Yeah.
Too
That was so good. Literally, it was so good.
It's off the rails. We gotta put it back on.
Oh, I'm gonna get some water real quick. So, as more time is passing, one of the other rules that the dragon is kind of required to do is deal with any sort of monsters and magic that the sort of wood gives out. Because this wood also is described throughout the book as being kind of a toxic place. If you go in, it corrupts you and it infects you. It's a sort of a death sentence. Very few people come out of the woods alive and intact and whole.
Oh, damn.
And also, too, like, the woods, I don't want to call it quite sentient, but it does sort of send out, like, bad shit. So, to reiterate that, in one of these moments where the dragon is sent off to deal with a chimera that's, like, fucking with some other people, a notice for help comes from her village that he can't see, of course, because he's away. So she, being, like, the best self that she is like, I'm not going to sit here and, leave my family and village to suffer. Yeah. So she goes to this village to help. And she has this great interaction, too, with her friend, briefly, where she's explaining...
The pretty friend?
The pretty friend, the beautiful
everyone
friend.
Thought was going to get taken.
Yeah, because there's a bit of a tense moment that kind of gets explained a little bit more, too, later on, where they're very happy to see each other, but Agnieszka explains to her, like, why I got taken, and it's so cool that her best friend describes, like, oh, this makes so much more sense because I remember seeing all these moments with you that are unexplainable, like how she could always, like, climb the tree the best, or that she could never keep her clothes clean because, like, the earth was literally, like, grabbing at her, but not in an aggressive way, in these, like, little ways, and how the acorns and the pine cones would tell her stories that she would tell to other people. It's really kind of cool to see this magic that she has always had inherently that has gone so unnoticed because it was just childlike innocence. It's explained to a little bit how she has a different effect to the corruption. Because another time... Yes, of course.
In my head, I'm like, she's a child of the woods. Like, she's connected to the woods. And then you say something, and I'm like, ha-ha!
Aha!
Vindicated. I was correct.
I'm picking up on the beats.
Yeah.
From this book I haven't read, but that my friend is doing a good job of reiterating.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Because she does go into the woods at one point to pick blackberries. And, like, as a child, covered in blackberry juice, she goes home and her mother is weeping because she is so certain that her child is dead. Like, that like, she's so heartbroken. But then you kind of find out that conveniently, the berries that she picked were untouched by the corruption.
Oh, convenient.
Convenient.
Lucky? Did she have the lucky feet?
So she goes to help her village, who all of the cows and the cattle have been basically bitten and gone crazy by these wolves that came out of the woods and, like, fuck shit up. And she helps, like, destroy the cattle, which is really, really heartbreaking for the economy, understandably, of this small town. But then the wolves go after her and her best friend. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's wild. And I love, too, that these friends, even though they go through a bit of a tumultuous moment of the best friend hating Agnieszka for being taken, and, like, we kind of see this moment a little bit later on, even though they have this, like, tense moment of, like, hatred and animosity, they still come together because they still love each other so much. They are the best of friends. And they are, like, doing the best they can to protect each other from the wood, like, from these wolves. Agnieszka is trying to use whatever magic she's learned to, like, stop them. There's this great moment where Kaza literally grabs an axe from Agnieszka, who's not really doing anything with it, and starts hacking at the wolves. Like, from the first moment, Kaza is, like, a badass.
Awesome.
It is so great.
I'm really glad their friendship wasn't ruined by the wizard dragon man.
Me too. Yeah, like, like, their friendship is so beautiful. And you know, the dragon does come and like save them a little bit more, but he gets wounded. Classic.
Standard
Grievously.
stuff.
So she takes him back to the tower and is struggling to try to keep the corruption out of him. And she's like going through his library books and being like, what's going to help me? Because she doesn't really know. And she comes across this book that has like a bunch of like notes and like kind of papers in it. And it looks really, really old. And there's a healing spell in it. So she grabs whatever ingredients she needs, like lemon and thyme and stuff like that the recipe magic requires, and she goes and she heals him. And this is kind of one of these great instances where we see her magic as more intuitive, as more natural than what he's been trying to force upon her.
Yeah.
Because he's been trying to teach her by the book, this is what magic is.
Yeah.
This is a textbook.
His patriarchal idea of what magic is.
Exactly. This has worked, and it's always worked.
Feminist and shitty about it.
It's like, yes, I am the intelligence wizard from Dungeons and Dragons, and you're like the innate sorcerer with charisma or like wisdom. Like,
well,
you're
it's like
a druid.
It's like how in the real world, they started not letting midwives help women have babies because the doctor went to school.
Of course.
He's a man. He knows way more about having children than the women do, who have been having children for thousands of years.
He has a degree.
I have this piece of paper. It says that I know more than you.
Literally exactly this.
Yeah, love it.
Which is kind of another reason why she's been struggling with this magic so much, is like, it makes no sense to her, and she's like, why? So she takes this book, and there's a bunch of like measurements and notes in it that he's taken, actually, about like how much lemon to use, how much thyme and whatever, and she's like, fuck this, I don't have time for this. So she just kind of like goes by gut instinct of like how much thyme, how much lemon, all this other stuff, and starts like making this chant, and she starts singing to it, that this 100-year-old birthday song that is actually like a song in Polish culture that is, it's just really, really cool to kind of see a little bit of that kind of culture coming in, but also seeing her using this innate ability of just like, hey, this is a comfort thing. This is something that I know, and I know how to control, and I'm incorporating it into this magic that I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really, really lovely balance. And, you know, sure enough, she heals him beautifully, and he's very upset.
Because of course he is.
Of course
Real
he
butthurt.
is. Yeah. Because he's so mad and upset that so backstory on this book really quickly. This was the book that belonged to Baba Yaga.
Ooh.
Yeah. This was like, she died like 600 years apparently before like this story is occurring, and he's been trying to decipher it. He's been trying to like take this old woman's vague notes on magic and make like a solid grounding, like again making it into a textbook, and he's been failing at it for as long as he's had it.
Yeah.
Classic. So he's really upset that she can grab it off the top of the shelf and just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because some things you can just do naturally and you have an instinct for. And
Yeah.
you tried to study it. Like baking.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not baking. It's magic.
Oh yeah, so he's real upset.
Love it.
About that. And
Good.
then he says some bullshit about like, oh, well, obviously you're good at this magic because it's healing magic. Because
feminine.
it's feminine, and you just, you know, it's inherent in you to know how to heal people.
I
That is
roll.
big F you.
Yeah.
Big F you to the dragon.
I know, and this is why I'm like, God, you had such potential to be this edgy boy that I love, and you're just an asshole.
You're just an asshole. You're just a little, like,
Does he
insecure.
Does he apologize for it later?
No.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay.
He never apologizes for anything that he does.
Well, what is it, the phrase that's like, die mad about it?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. Die mad about it, you freaking turd.
Like, such a dick. Yeah, so, like, but then he does start reluctantly letting her kind of, he's still teaching her magic, but she is starting to take a little bit more initiative on, like, hey, like, this is my gut instinct, and this is what I'm feeling as the magic is telling me, instead of, like, me controlling the magic. So he is reluctantly being like, fine, whatever, I'll teach you what I know, and then you can do whatever, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So some more time passes where she's kind of learning some stuff, and there's actually another great moment where she's getting upset with him that he's not teaching her any more of, like, the Baba Yaga journal. And he's like, because none of it's proven, none of it's been tested, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, I've done so many of the spells in it, like, successfully. Which he gets more upset about.
I'm better than you.
At this
Give
one
me the
thing.
book.
And there's this great moment where he tells her, like, show me exactly what you did with this one spell. And she does. And then he does it exactly how she does it, but he fails. And she mocks him for it.
Yes.
She's literally like, you shouldn't have done that. And he gets so upset because it's like, well, you did. And she describes again the magic as intuitive. It's like, okay, well, you're going down this path, but then a hedge is in your way or a fallen tree. So what you do is you try to go through the object. And she's like, well, you just go around and you just find, like, your new path to get to the main path. So it's kind of cool seeing her magic also kind of coming back to, like, this idea of the woods.
Yeah.
In a way. Because, like, she does have, like, this great connection with the forest and with the valley and with her land. And he doesn't.
Yeah.
He's just so ignorant to it. So some more time passes, and she gets word that her friend, Kazia, gets kidnapped.
By the prince?
No.
Oh, I was like, are we going to tie this back
No,
around?
no.
It's fine.
No. By the woods.
Oh, shit.
Oh,
Yeah.
The wood's just like...
Yeah, like...
Oh, no.
The wood is kind of a fucked up place. Like, it's really brutal. So... I'll give a bit of a description of the woods, too. So the woods has been, like, toxic and shitty and, like, corrupt for as long as they can remember. Maybe thousands of years. Nobody really knows. And it has basically taken people. It has fucked shit up. But what it does to these people is they make them into heart trees. Or, like, they put them into the heart trees. And what these heart trees are, they're basically, like, old ancient trees, oaks, if you will, that kind of, like... have a bit of an area around them. So if you will, like, one heart tree kind of commands this one area of a wood. So if you destroy the heart tree, that whole wood, you could easily burn and clear away and clear the corruption away.
Yeah.
That's kind of how that works.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think, because heart trees, I think, are based on, like, actual things and, like, actual folklore. I think I've heard the term heart tree used in, like, stories and stuff like that before.
Yeah. So her friend has been taken by a woodwalker, which is essentially a tree folk person, and, like, put and forced into one of these trees.
Oh, no.
It's awful. And the dragon is like, nah, she's dead.
What, sir?
Right?
The audacity of men.
We might
Fiction
love...
or otherwise.
We love, a somewhat toxic man. This is too much.
We love a somewhat toxic man.
We love a bit of an asshole.
It's because there has to be a balance. Like, there has to be, like, other redeeming qualities to that, like, to balance that toxicity. But this guy doesn't seem to have, like, a redeeming side of things.
Not
Like,
really.
when I read, like, the villain gets the girl romance books, he's only the villain to other people, and then she realizes that it's, like, a facade, and he's actually a really nice guy inside. And so, like, he has redeeming qualities, even though he's, like, a murdering psychopath. This guy just doesn't sound like he has any redeeming qualities.
No, and, like, we do see some things that are like, okay, you are a good guy, and you have been portrayed in a shitty light, but that's also because you're shitty.
That's also because you've been stealing women.
Yeah, and, like, just being an asshole. So he immediately writes Kaza off as dead. Like, it's no point going into the woods because you're gonna just get corrupted, you're gonna get taken, and you're gonna die along with her. Being a negative Nancy.
Being a fucking coward.
Yeah.
It's what he is.
Yeah.
You don't deserve to be a dragon.
No.
Sir.
Why does he have that title?
So the reason why he has this title is all wizards and witches do have a title after they've basically gone through school, if you will, or a trial,
Sure.
you know, and they've succeeded and all that other stuff. They can choose their name. So he
picked it for himself.
He picked it for himself.
God.
But it's like
But like we also do see like there's another wizard that comes later on that's close with the prince who's also totally a creep. He's called the Falcon. There's a witch that we do see a little bit too who's called the Willow. So like, you know,
How is it that I hate both of the men's names and I'm just like I can vibe with being like the Willow. I was like, yeah.
yeah.
It's just I feel like there's just something so narcissistic about naming yourself like
Like a predator?
a predator.
I'm a big tough guy.
Here's where my head goes. Okay, like if they're choosing their own names, is it like do they pick from things that are like important to the world? You know what I mean? Like, is a dragon supposed to embody something and this wizard thinks he embodies it and picks the title for himself? Like that's where I would hope. You know what I mean? Like that's where I'm like, okay, you want to become this cool thing. So you pick the name to be like, universe, listen, I'm like, you know, mantras, right? Like if I say it enough, it's true. But I'm not getting that. And I'm really pissed about it.
I unfortunately don't think that's the vibe. I think so they also I should say that these people do have like actual names, like the wizards and witches.
I hope his name's Craig.
But their name is also based on the title that they choose. And basically their name is like the magic name of their title. So it's just like, it's basically like the true name of magic would be the dragon and like the falcon. So that's, but still, you still do choose it, which is kind of like shitty.
It's dubious at best.
Totally dubious. Which also, I mean, I don't want to jump ahead too quickly, but it also really speaks to Agnieszka as a character and as a person, because eventually she does have to go to the capital and she does take this trial and this test and she succeeds. And they're like, hey, you have to choose your name. And she's like, why? I'm perfectly happy being Agnieszka. Like, that's my name.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Yes.
So she is just like, she just owns it.
Yes.
And I love that so much because people always are seeing her as like a simpleton, as a farm girl, as like somebody that's just like, you know nothing of magic or politics or what we're really doing. And she's just like, why are you making it more complicated for yourself? Like, why can't we just fix something? Like, why do we have to like play these political games or make things harder for ourselves? Why don't we just do it?
All this bullshit bureaucracy garbage.
Literally. So her friend gets kidnapped and she's like, I'm going. I am absolutely going into the woods by myself to save her. And she does. She like goes through the woods. She sees some like forest walkers and she's like, nah. So like she does have like some moments of like craziness, but she does like get her friend out of the tree and she destroys it and burns it.
Awesome.
And like she's also not a strong girl. She carries her friend out. Yeah, she like hauls her over her shoulder and like starts dragging her out of the wood. And the dragon is like, you know, I think not having it. He's not having a good time.
Oh,
Good.
no. The
Die
dragon.
mad about it.
The dragon is so upset. Oh no, the
He's-
big bad dragon.
He's
Poor
like,
boy.
yeah, he's like pretty furious and like, wow, that was a stupid move.
If only you could see how hard my eyes roll.
Yeah, and like, I also do want to give the dragon some credit. Well, totally, his actions are inexcusable.
Allison, she's allowed to have her opinion. Let us hear her out.
I have made my decision.
And you're entitled to.
Yeah, he's totally an asshole. I'm not fighting you on that. No. But I will say, like, he's been in the tower, so, like, that's where classic. Of course it's a tower. He's been in this tower, like, at the edge of the woods, defending it for, like, decades. Yeah. So he knows pretty well how fucked up it is and how corrupt it is and what it does to people. And he actually knows through firsthand experience, like, trying to save somebody, that it doesn't work, which we do kind of get a little bit. So really quickly, Agnieszka brings her friend back to the tower, and the dragon immediately locks her up away from Agnieszka. Mm-hmm. And, like, sometime later brings her down there to see her friend Kaza. And there seems to be a moment where Kaza's like, oh my god, like, I'm so glad to see you. Is my mom okay? What happened? But through the wizard's magic, we see that she's fully corrupt. And when she knows that she's exposed, like Kaza, her demeanor immediately changes. And she starts mocking Agnieszka and, like, fucking with her. So, understandably, Agnieszka is, like, really shaken from this.
Really upset.
Really upset. And it's kind of after that the dragon is like, hey, I don't know 100% how you're feeling. I can't know. But I did try to save somebody that was corrupted. It's nobody he knew personally, really. It was just sort of like many, many years ago, a woman at court manipulated him into falling in love with her so that he would hopefully save her husband from the corruption. And the husband had been alive for a very long time. Obviously, it didn't work out. The lady was super upset and tried to gouge out his eyes.
Oh, jeez.
So, like, not a good time for him.
Not bad.
So, like, yeah, and he was actually understandably portrayed, not understandably, but that sort of tale was diluted and, like, told as, like, her being the victim and he being the evil wizard that had, like, fucked up her husband. So, like, kind of through the telephone game, if you will, or through the bard game of, like, telling stories, he was kind of depicted as the asshole. So she's like, oh, okay, maybe I am only slightly misjudging you. You're still a dick, but, like, you do have some emotion and feeling. You're just, you built up so many walls that you're hiding everything. But she is adamant in trying to save her friend.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. She loves her. She's like, no way am I letting her, like, suffer like this. So they do this incredible, like, summoning. I don't know what it's called. It's like someone summoning this spell where it's, like, a very intense, magically draining spell that is supposed to, like, suck the evil out, I think is how it's sort of being portrayed. It's a little bit, like, fluid as magic is. Mm-hmm. And they're going through, like, this spell and trying to cleanse her. And this is kind of where we get this moment of, like, their relationship sort of being harsh. Because this is where we see Agnieszka seeing Kaza for the first time as feeling like she's being robbed of something. Because she was told her mother groomed her to be taken. And she has so much resentment for her mother, for not being so loving, for always being distant, for always pushing her to be better than she ever wanted to be. So we see that hatred for her mother. We also see that hatred for Agnieszka, for being chosen, for taking this thing that she was supposed to have. There's a really wild moment, too, where we see kind of a flashback to where Kaza is just at the table, like, at night after her friend was taken, and all of these boys start sort of leering at her and, like, talking to her, and all these boys that were, like, not giving her the time of day or were kind of too distant are suddenly like, oh, you're available now and you're perfect.
Gross.
Yeah, so gross. So she's so gross. Yeah, so gross. So she's like, she feels like shit.
Yeah, understandably.
Yeah, but despite that, like, they still have so much love and affection and bond between them that Agnieszka can save her and, like, kind of lead her out of her sort of torment, her corrupted torment. And she does, and it's great. And
yay.
Yeah.
The power of friendship.
Yay. So she saves her friend, and it's incredibly personal and sweet, and the dragon's like, well, didn't expect that.
Yeah. Well, maybe there is more that I can learn if I just stopped being a dick.
Yeah. He doesn't, but
He doesn't,
but he's
Yeah.
getting better at it. So again, over like the next couple months as well, we see her, Kaza, kind of learning to walk again, because that was like a very hard thing. She's kind of like eating a little bit better. She's sort of learning to like be a person again. She's also gotten some crazy, unusual strength from the effects. Oh yeah. She is like so physically strong. It is wild. Like, we see her in some battles later on, and she's like throwing horses.
Oh my god.
Yeah. She is throwing punches left and right, and it's amazing.
That's awesome.
And really quickly, I'd like to touch on the romance that is between, of course, the dragon and Agnieszka. I know. It is there, because we are also, like, by this time, it is a couple months that she's been taken, that she's learning, that she's kind of like, okay, I know you're kind of a dick. I'm having a thicker skin now. I don't really care. She's a topper.
Oh,
If you know what I mean by that.
What?
Like,
I'll get behind that.
so she, oh my god.
Wait.
I will get behind Agnieszka.
Wait, is she
topping the fucking asshole?
Wait.
So, okay.
Wait, I need to check, because I'm imagining two kinds of tops. Where she is just like femme fatale, like dominating, like being the one that's like leading, or is she pegging the dude?
like literally topping.
Like, I'm not in sexual spaces often, but I do know that there's two different types of topping.
I mean, there are varying degrees of being a
Yeah. You know,
or a dom or whatever, depending on your specific social circles.
I'm sorry, I just need this to be clarified.
you know, while I'm sure there are strap-ons in this fantasy world, she never wears one. But there is a brief romance scene between them where they're sort of doing this thing where they're kind of sharing their magic and they're creating an illusion. And she describes that their magic is sort of touching, like his magic and hers. And it kind of like explodes into this like crazy scene of like flowers and thorns and ivies and like a gorgeous garden. And she's laughing because she's like, wow, this is nuts. And he's like, murr, 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 and he kisses her. And she's immediately leaning into the kiss. She's like pushing him to the ground and like straddling him.
She's taking the lead.
100%. She's like the laces of his pants are undone, her skirt's kind of going up, but then she does stop. She's like, what the fuck am I doing?
What am I doing?
Yeah, because I mean, likely she's never had sex before.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like that's not that important by any means, but like already she's getting the confidence to take initiative like that.
Yeah.
Especially to a degree like that.
And I'm just like, you can do better.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, totally do better. Totally. So
I'm happy for her though.
Me too.
Good job.
Honestly, yeah. So like that kind of happens, and then the prince comes back sometime later, and this is where we get some kind of shitty things going on, where her decisions have consequences. So when she saved her friend, she sent a note to Kaza's mother saying like she's fine. She probably can never come back or can't come back at present, but she's okay. However, I guess a couple other letters had been sent, and while Kaza's mother was ailing and ill, another woman read her letters for her and found out that Kaza was alive and well and hadn't been abducted, and the corruption didn't kill her. Mm-hmm. And this word got around real quick, and it got back to the prince. So the prince comes with the falcon, so with his like sort of advisory wizard guy. Yeah. Who already such a. If you think the dragon is a dick, this guy's a cunt.
Holy crap!
He is 100% worse. And like gaslighting, manipulative, and just like treating Agnieszka like a child. And it's just like, fuck you, dude. like just an asshole. Anyway, the reason why the prince is there is to test and make sure that, Kaza is uncorrupted and, see if this is actually true, and trying to convince the dragon to go back into the woods with him and a couple other people, because when he was very young, his mother ran away with some peasant guy.
The prince's mother?
The prince's mother.
Okay.
Ran away with, I think, a noble man from, the rival nation, and got kidnapped into the woods. And ever since he was a child, he has wanted every chance he could to try to save her, to try to be the hero.
Yeah.
If you could believe that.
No.
No, not at all. Which is why when he found out earlier on that Agnieszka was a witch, he was trying to enlist her in that moment, being like, I need your help, before she fucking thwacked him.
Yeah. We love a thwack.
I love a good thwack.
Love a good thwacking.
Especially when he's, bleeding very hard after that. It was great. Anyway, he somehow convinces them to, go into the woods. And it's kind of through Agnieszka's initiative, actually, trying to, what if we weaken the woods before we go in to try to save the queen? And they do this by destroying, a part of the wood that had kind of, crept in a little bit. That was sort of a newer corruption. So they destroyed it, and then they went into the woods. They went into the woods with 30 soldiers, the best soldiers that you could find.
Mm-hmm.
And they came out with only 2.
Lovely.
Yeah. I guess this would also be a bit of a warning as, the absolute bloodbath that followed. That party was fucked.
Love it.
So fucked. Already the dragon is this is a waste of time. This is so stupid. And he's trying to, but he is trying to protect these people as much as possible.
Yeah.
Versus the falcon, who is I don't fucking care. And the prince is whatever it takes to save my mom. Very misguided. So they go into the woods, and already some of the soldiers are getting picked off by the forest. Whether it's they themselves getting corrupted and killing each other, or just kind of getting lost in the woods and never being found again.
Mm.
But they do find the queen. They do find her in one of these heart trees.
Okay.
It's another bloodbath. There's some monsters and creatures, and basically giant praying mantises that come out and start tearing people apart and
Love
eating
it.
them. There are some of the tree folks that come and just fuck shit up more, and it's really fucked. But through a lot of that blood and turmoil, they do eventually get her out, and they do save the queen, if that's what you want to say.
Yeah.
And if that's how you'd like to say it. Because the queen, as soon as she's out, she doesn't say anything. She's catatonic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's been in there for decades
Yeah.
at this point?
Yeah, at least 25 years.
Jesus.
She's been in this tree, just stewing in corruption. Yeah. And if it's any thought of a measurement of this, Kaza was in there for less than a day.
Yeah.
And she was already fully corrupted. So the fact that she's in there for 25 years is kind of
She's probably pretty gone.
She's pretty fucked.
Yeah.
So the prince, on the one hand, happy that his mom is out, but on the other hand is really upset that she is not talking and healing, and that there's nothing that they could do to kind of get her to react to things.
Yeah.
They take her, as well as Kaza and Agnieszka, to the capital. The reason why they have to take Kaza to the capital is because the queen and her both have to stand on trial. And, yeah.
Why does Kaza have to stand on trial?
Yeah, so this is kind of a weird thing.
What the fuck did she do wrong?
It's because that they were both in the woods and both corrupted.
Oh, but... So now they're responsible for the woods bullshittery?
It's...
I chose to be taken into the woods.
Yeah.
I chose to be put into a heart tree. It is because I am carrying a uterus that I... No, I'm sure men get taken
There are
into
men
the woods,
also in
so
heart
it's
trees,
not-
yes, but
I just think it's bullshit.
It is, so the reason why they both have to go there is they both have to show that they are uncorrupted, But this is kind of where the politics comes in. That's just like garbage. Where they cannot let the queen live and kill Kaza. But then they can also not kill the queen and let Kaza live. Do you know what I mean?
They're two different fucking people.
Yeah,
in two completely different situations that should not apply to one another.
Yeah. But one's a queen, Alison. What are you talking about?
Well, the queen should not have been taken out of the fucking tree.
Yeah. Yeah, not a good time. So the dragon has to stay behind in his tower because he technically can't leave without the king's written order, basically. Because he has to stay and protect the kingdom from the wood.
Yeah, blah.
So,
bureaucracy.
of course, all that bullshit. So Agnieszka goes with her friend because she's, of course, not leaving her.
Duh.
And also, this is her chance to become like a certified witch. Mm-hmm. So she has the, not legal standing, but she has the sway to go to trial to defend her.
Yeah.
Because if she just went in as like her friend, they would not listen to her at all. So she goes, and she hates it. She is not impressed by the capital. She is not impressed by the politics and the bureaucracy and the games that the lords and ladies and royalty play against one another. Yeah. Like, she hates every single moment of it. And also the Falcon is just also being no help at all. He's like, he's kind of playing mind games.
Yeah, he doesn't sound like the type to be helpful.
No, not at all. And he's just like, he almost speaks in dumb riddles. And she's like, what do you mean? Why can't you give me a straight answer?
Lots of like vague kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just being
cryptic.
Yeah, and just being like, I've told you, why don't you understand? And she's just so frustrated. She hates it.
It's like, because you told me a sentence as a metaphor, and I asked you what was for lunch.
Yeah, literally. And the trial also doesn't happen right away, too, because there's also some more political bullshit that kind of is just like, well, the king can't, have this trial already because he's really upset that the queen's back when he's moved on, and, this is an awkward thing where he has this other woman.
Wife.
He has this woman that's wanting to be his wife and that he wants to be happy with, and the queen who's come back from the woods who actually ran away with another man.
Who didn't want to be here.
Yeah.
Let her exist in the tree.
Yeah. Like, the trial takes a long time to happen, too, because of political bullshit. And this is kind of something that I really love, too, about her standing trial for her, like, being on as a witness. Mm-hmm. Because she's had, like, so long, at least a couple weeks, maybe even, like, 2 months, being in the court and knowing how fucked up they are and how, like, word-gamey they are, she knows that she cannot go up there and articulate exactly how to defend her friend and how to, like, save her friend. So she uses magic. She uses an illusion spell to recreate the memory of saving her friend and then also saving the queen. And, like, blow by blow, it's, like, fucked up.
Yeah, a little different. Yeah. Couple different scenarios.
Yeah, the court and the whole trial, people are shaken from this. So I really, really love that ingenuity of, like, hey, I'm not going to play word games. I'm just going to show you what happened.
Yeah.
And, by the way, the entire time also, like, that she's there, the queen has not said a word. She is still catatonic. But during the trial, when the king is about to pass sentence, and he's going to pass sentence to kill the queen.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I can't risk corruption.
Yeah.
And 2, I fucking loathe you, and I want to be with this other woman who probably isn't going to run away.
Yeah.
But it's in this moment before he announces what his verdict is that she comes to. She speaks again. And she's like, no, like, if you're going to kill me for the corruption, that's fine, but I'm not a traitor. I didn't run away, I was taken.
Okay.
Yeah.
All these fucking women being taken. What is this world?
Yeah.
Here, narratively, I thought she had agency for her choice, and now I'm...
See, I don't want to give too much away, but I think she did have agency for her choice.
Is she lying?
Maybe we'll get into that a little bit more. So there's there is some more political bullshit that happens where it's like, you know, the queen is like, oh my god, blah, 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 this happened to me. Where, like, I was kidnapped, I never wanted to run away, we have to go to war with Razia and, like, the neighboring country, all this jazz. And, like, people are like, okay, this is a little bit crazy and unexpected. I'd say not everybody at court is an asshole. There is...
Not everyone.
Not everyone. There is one person that she meets that is so cool. She meets Aloysia, who is just a witch that has, like, never had any interest in the court, who knows the severity of the corruption of the woods, and for decades has been forging this one blade and infusing her magic into it a little bit at a time, so that the blade, you almost don't see it as metal. It's almost like a translucent piece.
Cool.
It's really, really
sword.
Cool. It's kind of an, like, wooja, 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 like a heat. You know how you see the Mirage heat?
Yeah.
That's what is, like, this sword. It's so cool. Anyway, so she spends a lot of her time, Agnieszka, with this woman, especially during when the queen starts talking about war, because she finds a lot of comfort in her sanity and just being away from the politics and that stuff. But then a lot of shit starts happening. The king dies very suddenly.
Fun.
Actually, after the trial, there is some of the wood corruption got into the capital city.
I wonder how. Weird.
So weird. It turned one of the mages and it killed the king.
Weird.
Yeah.
Definitely didn't see that coming when you bring a fucking...
Someone who's been in there for 25 years suddenly chooses to speak.
Yeah.
Weird.
Awkward.
Yeah, great
but
choice.
They don't see that as this. They still are like, no, it's fine, guys.
Look over there.
The queen takes this moment to be like, yeah, let's put aside our grief and let's go to war. So she sends her oldest son. So there's the two princes. There's the young prince that saved her, and then the older, more sensible prince.
Okay.
She sends him off to, like, take some soldiers and go fuck up, you know, them. But he dies in an ambush. Also very suddenly.
So suddenly.
So weird. And some traitorous soldiers decide, well, let's fuck up the crown princess and her children. Yeah. They have, there's a boy and a girl, and the crown princess, like, dies saving her kids. It's really traumatic. And actually, too, like, the older boy sees the last moment where, like, the mom gets stabbed, and he's, like, kind of permanently scarred.
Oh my God.
It's really fucked. So Agnieszka and Keza take the children and leave. They immediately head straight for the dragon's castle because they know that's at present the safest place for them.
Yeah.
And they also get the sword that Aloysia does give them. They eventually...
Does Kaza wield it? Does the strong...
Not yet.
Fuck.
Not
Will
yet,
she
but
though?
she will. She will.
Yes. And what is
Actually,
for her?
during their travels, Kazuya actually asks Agnieszka to make her a blade. So it's really, really rudimentary, but they have, like, just a couple daggers and some sticks, and she uses magic to fashion it, and it almost is like a giant kitchen knife.
Oh,
It's
cool.
so cool. So they barely make it to the dragon's tower, where the prince is already waiting, classically, for
course,
them.
yes.
And they have, like, their own little army. So the dragon has enlisted the help of a baron from, like, a neighboring place to kind of, like, hey, can you help me save these children from this corruption? And he's like, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
There's probably more to it, but, like, you know, he steps in at this moment, and there's about to be, like, a siege on the tower. So, like, there's kind of, like, that calm, and it's like, hey, everybody get some rest as much as you can. And this is where we get to, like, a steamy scene.
Ooh.
Yeah. So another reason why I really love this book is when it comes to a lot of romances, I feel, I mean, not that this is a romance novel by any means,
Yeah.
but when there is a romance in a novel, it's usually a lot more focused on. Like, it's given a little bit more of a spotlight than maybe other things.
Yeah.
But with Agnieszka and the dragon, like, we have this steamy moment of, like, a kissing makeout scene, but their relationship, they never really talk about it. They're never like, oh, you know, I looked away so suddenly, or I could feel my, his gaze on me. Like, there's never that. It's still very... They are themselves, I think, and that's what I really like.
Yeah.
And especially in this moment where shit's about to go down, and, like, the castle is under siege. And... even better, she fucking initiates it.
Yes.
She's like at the dead of night, she goes into his chamber, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing here?
She's like, you and me.
Yeah, she literally, like, climbed...
What? I'm assuming that's what she said.
I
know I asked about pegging earlier, but I'm
Oh my god. It's so good because she literally climbs on top of him.
Emily!
And he's kind of the one being the resistant one at first. And she eventually is like, do you want me to go?
Do you just want me to leave?
Yeah.
I'll leave.
Do you not want this? Which is
Love it. Yeah, 100%. Consent all the way. Let's do it.
Absolutely. And he's like, no, I don't want you to leave. So then they fuck. And it's like it's a really good, like, they don't describe.
If you think this is bad and you want to read Neon Gods, you have another fucking thing coming.
Listen. I can read horny shit in the privacy of my own mind. Okay? In my own mind, I can make something as horny or as not horny as I need it to be to go through things. But when my friends...
Fonda, we've seen your drawings, though.
Listen! I am not a prude. I just have a really hard time with, like, verbally talking about horny things. If it's written or in a drawn form, I'm okay. But verbally, I'm like, oh my god.
So good. And I should add, it's actually a really well-written sex scene. It's like, there's no description of, like, entering.
Oh my god! Fonda's wiggling uncomfortably next to me.
Again, verbally.
It's a very good sex scene because it's one of those things that, like, there's a lot of, like, make-out, there's a lot of foreplay, but then as soon as it gets to, like, the intercourse, it does that, like, cutaway.
Fade to black.
Yeah. So it still leaves, like, enough for the imagination, but we have a very strong description lead up. Oh, yeah. Till, like, we get to the point where, like, they're kind of talking a little bit afterwards, and he's describing, like, yeah, you have a very strong connection to the woods. And it's really weird, and maybe you don't want that and stuff.
That's some insane pillow talk. Like, let's talk about your magic for a second.
Yeah. He's literally talking about, like, after this fight, where she is like, how can there be an after to this, like, very important and improbable moment that's going to happen? Like, the idea of a future right now is, like, not on the cards.
We're just gonna die tomorrow.
Why am I thinking about that when I have to think about this?
Agnieszka's like, I live in the present. I don't.
Yeah.
Like, literally, it's so great that she's just so, like, not abrupt or abrasive, not by any means, but she is very much, like, present, and she is very, like, in the moment, and she's so emotional and empathetic, and that's what's really driven her to, like, save her friends and try to save, her town and her family and the land, is because she's like, I don't know what's happening, and I want to try to fix it. And that's what's so great, is that she's always just trying to help, and she's also doing this great thing where she's not hurting herself to help others. Mm-hmm. She's finding this great balance of, like, okay, like, let's do our best. And, it's so fucking great. I just fucking love her. Sorry.
No, you're allowed. This is what we are here for.
So, almost right after they fuck, like, there's some time afterwards where he falls asleep and she's still awake thinking, like, and she's like, oh, fuck. So basically, like, yeah, this ambush happens at night, and, like, they're not too unprepared, but it is like, oh, fuck, we gotta get our shit together, and obviously a lot of terrible things happen. People kind of die, and they kind of get pushed further and further into this tower. to the point where they end up in like the crypts and the catacombs, where there is this
sarcophagus.
Yeah, there's a sarcophagus in this room.
Or a tomb.
Yes.
One of the two.
So that kind of implies that this tower has been here for a very, very long time. And it does actually, it's very important to the, not plot of the woods, but the connection to the woods, which is really, really cool. So they are retreating into these catacombs and into this crypt with the children, trying to save them. And this is at this point where we see the queen, who's also here in battle, totally decked out in armor, and we truly see, oh, she is just totally corrupted and always has been.
No shit.
Yeah. Who saw that coming?
Yeah, no duh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously.
So she is trying to kill her grandchildren. Like, she's fully, like, has vines coming out of her and is trying to, like, wrap them around the children. Awesome. And this is kind of, like, the only real redemption that we get for the prince. Because in this moment, as asshole as he was before, he saves his niece and nephew. Like, he, like, cuts the vines and he, like, you know, pushes the children, like, away to safety. And yet we have his folly where he's, like, still trying to convince himself and maybe try to get his mom out. He's still, like, he's still begging for his mom to, like, recognize him, to come out, to, like, save everyone, to, like, stop being like this. Like, Mom, like, I know you're in there. And there's, like, a really savage moment where Agnieszka, because it is also told from Oliver's point of view, Agnieszka describes, like, if there is any ounce of his mother left in there, she used it there to give him a quick and merciful death.
Oh my god.
Like, yeah, like, he didn't even, like, know that he failed. Was her exact description of his death.
He died so fast and so hard.
Yeah, but he just was gone. Yeah. Wild. So, like, another, like, brief battle ensues where Kasnia is, like, fighting the queen herself, almost single-handedly. It is awesome. Awesome. And they're just about to fail. And they, in a way, they still kind of do fail, but, like, she takes this amazing magic sword and, like, cuts off her head.
Yes.
And while this technically doesn't kill the corruption in a way, it does, like, kill the host, and, like, it really damages the wood. Something that I did kind of forget to mention, too, is that during this moment, very important to the plot and to the reason why the wood is corrupt, is Agnieszka gets a vision of the catacombs that they are in, and of the Wood Queen, where she is basically, like, this king is being laid to rest, and, you know, this woman, this gorgeous sort of wood-like woman is, like, you know, staring and confused and uncertain, while his subjects are walling her inside. Yeah. This happened, like, a long time ago, and she's seeing this vision of this Wood Queen, who is embodying the current queen.
Yeah.
And being like, oh, okay, so there's more to the corruption of this wood.
Yeah.
Than it's just an asshole and it's just evil. There's a reason why this wood is kind of
seeking vengeance for the horrible murder of its queen.
Well, kind of, but not only that. There's a lot more, like, detail going on and shit. It's really, really great. So they do succeed. The children are fine. And Kasia goes with the children, because she's grown quite fond of them, actually, goes with them to bring them safely to their grandparents on their mother's side. While Agnieszka convinces the dragon that this is the time that we can, like, stop the corruption. Okay. And he is like, this is a bad idea. He's like, no, we did a great job today. We did a lot of great work. But, like, the wood is corrupt and it's always going to be corrupt. And she's like, no, we can fix this.
Now is the time. Let's do it.
Now is the time. So, like, they go into the woods and they find deep in the woods this incredible grove of heart trees. Like, tons of them. And they also find the Wood Queen. She's just hanging out there. And she's also kind of, in a way, catatonic. She's just kind of, like, sitting there. And they start setting fire to these trees and like casting magic to try to destroy them. And like the queen also catches fire, but it's not having like the best effect on her because she is kind of human, so she's kind of fighting it off. But we see this moment where she's trying to put herself out, but also put the other trees out. So we already get this kind of sense and this connection of her empathy, and like there's more to this feeling of like the trees and like a connection and an empathy and emotion going on here. So basically Agnieszka and the dragon kind of fail. Like Agnieszka gets forced into one of these heart trees.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and that the queen like forces her into it.
Yeah.
To which she has another very intense vision of like, you know, thousands of years ago, presumably, where these people used to live in the woods, and they used to be a part of the woods, and they used to be kind of wood-like. Nymph is for water, I think, right? And dryad is for wood.
I've heard people say wood nymph, but
Wood nymph?
let me quickly...
Yeah. Because I don't want to describe them as wood nymphs exactly, because they don't, like, kind of merge into trees and come out again.
Yeah.
But they are very, like, wooded people.
Okay, so dryad is specific to Greek mythology.
Okay.
They're a nymph or nature spirit. So nymph and dryad would be correct in this situation.
Okay. But maybe not correct, too, because they aren't technically spirits. They are people.
Yeah.
They're just wood people. And they have a queen, and they have, like, the queen's sister. And the queen is going to marry the king, like a human king, and go off to live with him. And the idea was that they were hoping that the wood people would remember what it's like to be people, and the people would learn something from being with the earth and being connected to, like, the forest and nature. But unfortunately, that didn't really work out. As
Clearly.
we can see. When the king died, the subjects walled the queen in with the dead husband, king,
Yep.
and started turning against these people out of what, you know, you could call it fear, you can call it greed, you can call it whatever.
Xenophobia.
Yeah, they were just like, they weren't having a good, they didn't like it.
Yeah.
Because they're assholes. So these people they chose instead to be trees. They chose the life that we are going to continue to be ourselves and be reasonable and be dreaming and be who we are, so that we don't learn the wrong lessons and don't learn their wrong lessons, which I thought was really beautiful. And, you know, we see these moments where the queen's sister is like helping these people, like turning them into like different trees. Some of them are becoming like the heart trees, others are just becoming regular trees, and she herself turns into one of these heart trees, the heart tree actually that Agnieszka is in. And she does try to convince Agnieszka, not through any forceful means, but being like, hey, you could join me, you could be at peace like me in this dreaming, you know, peaceful state, but then you would lose yourself. But if you stay like this, you're going to be corrupted, and you are going to corrupt me. So there's kind of that moment that goes on, and she, you know, in this vision, the sister does turn herself into a tree, and much time goes by where the queen does escape. And she comes back to this grove, and she sees all of her people and all of her family and all of her friends have been transformed. And she is about to take the fruit that they bear and eat it to transform herself. But then she hears something. She hears the sound of an axe hitting wood. And she runs to, like, investigate, and she sees these two woodcutters that are chopping down this tree and one of her people. And in this complete rage, she charges on them and kills one of them, and the other one because they've already partly damaged this tree is not going to survive. So she takes this man and basically forces him into the tree to heal it and to help it. And this is where the corruption started, is because she learned the wrong lessons from the people. She learned about rage, she learned about revenge and grief and misery. And she's feeling that for this whole time because her people are gone, and these new human people are coming in and continuing to hurt them. And all she wants to do is to save her people and be with her people, but she can't because she's lost herself. it's in this moment that she kind of Agnieszka knows how she could save her. So she does have the power to come back out of the tree, and I think it's in part helped by the queen's sister, because her sister wants nothing more than to be with her sister. Mm-hmm. She wants nothing more than to have her family and her queen back with her. And this tree, the sister, is damaged from the fire. So she goes over to the queen in her state and just kind of talks with her. And, like, not calms her exactly, but through this moment of, like, woman to woman and hardship to hardship, they can talk out their feelings.
Yay!
Yay! And Agnieszka leads the queen over to her sister and does this, like, ritual, like, gives her clean fruit and makes her one with her sister.
Yay.
Yeah, and it's just such a beautiful conclusion that I just love, is that, you know, the forest was never evil.
Yeah.
In its basic sense of what we know as quote-unquote evil.
Yeah.
It was just fueled by, like, grief and rage and revenge and misery and heartache. And I thought that there was a lot of similarities, too, between the queen and Agnieszka, in a way. And obviously, the parallels aren't exactly the same, you know?
Yeah.
But in terms of, like, a feeling of connection, of empathy, Agnieszka cares just as deeply for her home, for her village, for her family, as the queen did for them. And, you know, they just both maybe took slightly different directions, or more accurately were influenced by their situation.
Yeah.
And it unfortunately turned out very poorly for the queen, but, you know, Agnieszka was able to really help her sort of let that go and be with her sister. And this is kind of where we get to the end of the book. The next day, the dragon just fucks off.
Okay.
They go back to the tower, they're sort of recuperating, and she approaches him as he's packing. And he's basically telling her, like, you know, I'm going back to the capital to, like, save whatever corruption there and, like, banish that, blah, blah, blah. He's basically just running away.
Yeah.
Because his emotional barriers and his emotional walls are so crumbled down that he's just like, nope, I don't want to have this sense of commitment. I don't want to have the sense of vulnerability ever again. I don't want to be stuck here.
Yeah.
And he just fucks off. But what I love about this specific moment is as he's explaining to her, like, his feelings, and it's like, you know, I'm just leaving, she's like, okay, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay with the wood and, like, help banish a little bit more of the corruption that still lingers. And he's like, you're insane. And she literally just, like, has this great one-liner and is like, just walks out of the room. She's the one that leaves him hanging, I guess, in a way, you know. And that's just shows such an extra powerful progression of her character, where before she was so intimidated, before she was so meek, I guess, like, kind of what you would see as, like, the typical princess and dragon trope. But at the end, she is just so in tune with herself and her own choices and her own potential that she doesn't end up with the dragon. She doesn't end up with anybody at the end.
Yeah.
And the prologue, if you will, is a year later, where she's still in the forest. She is slowly but surely, like, cleansing any of, like, the heart trees that are, you know, too corrupted, that cannot be saved. Those tree folk individuals are also, like, helping her now because they are not insane.
Yeah.
Because it was the toxic fruit that was making them insane. So, like, they're friendly now and they're helping her, and she's living in the forest and she's traveling around and helping these villages wherever she can. And she's that perfect aesthetic of, like, a forest witch and just, like, hanging out, doing her own thing.
Yeah.
It's so amazing to me. Then at the end as well, like, she's having this beautiful festival with her parents. The dragon does show back up after a year, and, you know, he's like, I'm here to collect the tax, blah, blah, blah. But he did come back for her, even though she was never expecting him to come back. she was very content living out the rest of her life without him.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that is amazing.
Yeah.
Like that, not to say that you don't find that a lot, but to know that she is so confident and so powerful with herself, by herself, that she's found exactly where she not only needs to be, but where she wants to be, and has found such happiness and contentment in her life. It's so rare. And especially for somebody that, as Agnieszka kind of is depicted, she's a very emotional, very sensitive individual. To have had the experiences of a lot of the assholes walking all over her, a lot of, like, this political toxicness, a lot of, like, people taking away her choice or taking away her agency, for her to, like, still find herself,
Mm-hmm.
I find is just, it's something that's so beautiful and I admire so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if I'm articulating it even the best, how much I like her.
Well, it's been a long episode of you explaining why you like her.
I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry.
It'll just have to go up in 2 chunks on YouTube.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, no.
Emily, would you like to
That's
tell
YouTube's
us...
problem.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's not
YouTube's
our problem. That's YouTube's problem.
Emily, would you like to tell us what you're excited about right now?
Oh,
Could be anything.
I should have thought about that before I came here.
You didn't have to.
Well, I don't know what I'm excited about. See, the problem with me is that some good things happen to me. Well, a lot of good things happen to me. I'm a very privileged person, and I'm very grateful for a lot of things. But I don't get excited for things until they get here. Like when people say, like, oh, I'm excited for this Hawaii trip. It's like, no, I'll be excited when I'm in Hawaii,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So my excitement is very delayed. Though I will say some really exciting thing that happened with work or with my job is I'm a person that works in wardrobe and in costume, and I got a mentorship opportunity where I can learn how to design costumes in the theater.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Oh, yeah. I'm very excited. So that technically starts next year. But I get to work on some of my own projects that I get to then display next year to show people, like, hey, this is what I've learned. This is what I've designed. I could put that on a resume, and it's like, yeah, I did it.
I did a thing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Well, Emily, is there anything you'd like to plug? Something where people could find you, or something that you think other people should find?
Oh, goodness. Well, I'm not a very interesting person, but if you wanted to find me on Instagram at Emily Suzanne T. Bear, that would be really cool. I am right now listening to another podcast, though, if I could plug that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think it's a pretty well-known podcast, but it's called Random Number Generator Horror Podcast number 9. I've talked to Alison a little bit about this one. It's by the creators of Night Vale, and they're basically talking about horror movies and the horror genre in this perfect balanced way that one of them loves horror and the other one doesn't. So for someone who, as I am, is breaking into horror a little bit more but is still a little bit squeamish, it's great to get all the spoilers for all of these horror movies and get a rating for how squeamish it is, but then also hear them explain why it makes good horror and like why it is successful or why it falls flat. It's really eye-opening for me, and that's something I'd like to plug.
Yeah. Nice. Well, dear listeners, you can find us wherever podcasts can be found. Please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow us on Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Wench Bench Pod. And if you want to reach out, you can send us an email at wenchbenchpod@gmail.com. All the art for the Wench Bench was designed by the wonderful Tessa Joyce Riecken. You can find them on Twitter and Instagram at Werevile. Emily, thank you so much for coming and doing this episode with us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Yeah. And listeners, thank you very much for joining us. We will talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Emily, you can say bye.
Bye! where the ambush happens.
Fucking shit!
Hey, do my work socks smell bad, Fonda?
Get out of here. You asshole.
Being assaulted.
Hot as shit.
It is.
It's very hot.
It's pretty
in here.
toasty.
That
where's
makes sound.
Is it not
I
loud though?
know. I don't know.
Where's
Brief intermission
Where's the remote
interlude.
gimmick?
What gimmick?
The
remote
remote
gimmick.
gets so
The remote gimmick?
Here, turn the light off. We'll leave the fan on.
Oh.
There goes Here, Fonda, hold these for a second, would you?
Oh no.
This is. Thank
Gosh.
you. I love it. Stumbling into the
Sample of
room.
Alison's problematic taste in men. I love him dearly.
No.
Why do I feel like I'm being
No.
No!
At least he didn't spit in your water this time.
Oh.
Yeah, you did.
That's a good idea. I
Sorry.
yeah.
Sorry, Fonda.
Targeted.
Oh.
I find Kovu attractive from Lion King 2, and Fonda didn't understand
Oh.
that.
Yeah.
No, I see it.
Until, like, she watched The Bad Boys or something
Bad
like that. The Bad Guys, a different one.
Oh,
Yeah, so Fonda didn't understand, but, like, yeah, at least that one was, like, somewhat anthropomorphized. Like, Kovu's very
is
lacks
full
the,
animal.
like, the standing
Yeah.
part.
Was Kovu in the second movie?
He was in the second movie. He was
With-
Scar's son.
Oh yeah. Then I know exactly what you mean. Kovu was incredibly attractive.
Kovu was a hot lion.
Oh my
Everything
god.
was
full
Just like
circle.
he had like this sort of like not scowl, but it's kind of like this sort of like look that's narrow-eyed.
You could exactly picture what he would look like as
Oh
a
my
human.
god.
Oh my
So nice.
And it was
Audience,
great.
audience. Everything comes full circle. It just all comes back around to the Lion
Every
King.
episode's gonna end with Kovu.
Every episode ends with talking
Not with-
about strange
Attraction.
attractions.